Now I would like to introduce the Honorable Thaksin Shinawatra. Excellency Thaksin Shinawatra was awarded a doctorate in criminal justice at Sam Houston State University in Texas in 1978, so maybe more than 30 years ago. He was one of the most successful businessmen in Thailand, and he is the only Thai Prime Minister who can complete the 5-year mandate and re-elected. Honorable Thaksin Shinawatra founded the populist RAC party in 1998. The historic election victory of his party led to his appointment as the Prime Minister of Thailand in 2001. And then he was re-elected Prime Minister in 2005 in the second term. He initiated a wide range of popular policy, particularly improving the livelihood of the poor and the middle class. Honorable Thaksin Shinawatra was appointed as the first chairman of the Centrist Democrat International CDI AP in 2005, now CAPDI, later known as the Centrist Asia Pacific Democrat International CAPDI. He was also the special advisor to the Royal Government of Cambodia and to Samdech អគ្គមហាសេនាបតីតេជោ Hun Sen, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Cambodia. May I now invite Honorable Thaksin to take the floor, please. Sorry, sir. I would like you to speak at least 1 hour.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Excellency Sok-an. I have to thank Excellency the Chair for your kind compliment, sympathy, and support for me and the reconciliation in Thailand. Excellency Sok-an, Deputy Prime Minister and Senior Vice President of the CAPDI, Excellency Muhammad Yusuf Kala, Excellency Jose the Chair, Excellency Mushahid Hussein Said, Excellencies Cambodian Ministers, Excellencies Ministers, former Ministers, MPs from Asia, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure and honor to be invited to speak for this prestigious international conference organized by CAPDI and the Royal Academy of Cambodia. And I have to thank the organizing committee to giving me quite a generous time. Maybe they think that I'm been roaming around the world. We'll have a lot of things to share with you today. Or maybe they sympathize me that I'm the only one in this room that after this conference cannot go back to my home country. Well, I think all of you who've been here several times may share with me that Cambodia has changed a lot. I remember very well when I attended the ASEAN Summit here in 2002. At that time, Cambodia tried very hard to make the organization is very international standard. And it's been very good organized. But now, it's much, much better than in 2002. And the city of Phnom Penh are changing. If you see the traffic, it tells you something that the economy of Cambodia has been prosper and grow very quickly. I have to congratulate to Prime Minister Hun Sen, my friends and brothers, who always supporting me, especially during my difficult times. We have very few leaders that still very close to each other openly. But many leaders that was my that were my counterpart before, still in contact with me, but quietly. But very few. One of the few is Prime Minister Hun Sen. I always feel warm every time I come here. Let me share with you before I change the topic from reconciliation to economy. And the Cambodian government always believe that I can speak in economy better than politics. If I'm good at politics, I'm not been sent out to exile like this. So I may be good in economy, not politics. Let's leave Excellency the Venetia to share his experience in politics and reconciliation. Let me start by sharing with you what I'm observed now. I think there are 5 trends that will shape the world in next 50 years or even 100 years. I can observe clearly. First is aging. I just came back from Japan. Japan now, the people in Thailand average age, they can live longer. Those who can live more than 75 years old increased by 36% from 2005 probably to 2015. In US, every 8 seconds, there's going to be one person to celebrate 50th birthday anniversary. Every 8 seconds. So the trend is that we have more aging population. That will make the whole world change. The welfare, the expenditures on pharmaceutical, medical tourism will happen, healthcare planning, anti-aging surgeries, even in technology, memory recoveries. Things are changing to gear toward that the whole world we have more aging citizens. The second trend that I can observe, that is the power has shifted eastward. Even Nostradamus known that 500 years ago. There's a prediction that in the year 2000, Nostradamus said that there's going to be the rise of the euro. So China grew clearly from year 2000. And the consumer spending in China now is about $2 trillion US. It will be overtake the consumption of the US by 2015. There is one new word we call CHIME, C-H-I-M-E. That is China, India, and Middle East. These 3, China, India, and also Middle East, they are rich in terms of the government reserve. They start buying many Western companies. But the way China and India taking control or buying into many companies in West are more strategic. But for the Middle East, it's purely for profit. During the financial crisis in Europe and in US, more and more company has been taken over by the sham countries. And demand on the natural resource worldwide also has been sucked by the East, especially China and India. The third trend is about global connectivity. Because of the deregulation, because of the technology, the globalization, low-cost traveling, and migration is now changing how people live, how people work, and how people think. 13% of the world's population living in the country where their birth, different from their birth country. That may be including me now. Workforce will become highly mobility. The technology on the GPS, the global positioning system, and the RFID will be able to talk, to communicate to each other because of the nanotechnology as well. This is really changed so many things. In the near future, you don't have to go, when you go passing through the cashier at the supermarket, you don't have to wait for them to bring and then read barcode anymore. You're just passing through and it takes the money out from your account immediately. Because of the technology is there. So the privacy either is dead or dying. But the good thing is that it will increasing more transparency and the behavior of the people are more honest. The word me, they will shift from the word me to we because of the technology. And the fourth trend is the new technology that is very, very influential in this world. We use the word GRIN, G-R-I-N. G is come from genetic. R is robotic. I is information. And N is nanotechnology. I is internet, actually, internet. And N is nanotechnology. So this technology will become the technology that change the way human is living. We can download human intelligence into machine. And the machine getting smarter and smarter, even smarter than the people. The fifth trend is the environment. Global warming, climate change is really a big trend that every country will have to adapt the way they develop countries. We're talking about clean energy. We're talking about the like Maldives is start to worry if global warming, the level of the sea will be swept their own country. And even Bangkok, the Pheu Thai party have to announce the policy to protect flood because the sea level getting higher. And the flood is difficult, more difficult to protect. So the mantra of reuse, recycle, and reduce is become a mantra for every country, because every country have to be trying to be a good world citizen, try to reduce their uses of the garbage and everything, recycle and reduce the consumption of the energies. So Let me come back to the economies after we know that this is the trends that we have to think how we will develop our countries, how we prosper our countries. This trend is still allow the issues that we have to take into consideration. Let me talking about emerging market economies, because it's become very powerful, and most of the Asian countries, we're still in what we call emerging markets. 20 years ago, since 1990, it marked the beginning of globalization via information technology and telecommunications, and the breakup the Soviet Union. These landmark events opened a new era in which emerging markets, and particularly emerging market of Asia, saw accelerated economic growth and development. According to The Economist, the combined GDP of emerging markets today is 38% of world GDP, compared to 19% in 1990. Only 20 years. Developed economies today account for 60% of world GDP, but the emerging market GDP could exceed the developed world's GDP within 7 years. If emerging market GDP is measured on a purchasing power basis, emerging market overtook the developed world since 2008. Over the past 10 years, emerging market growth account for 3/4 of world GDP growth. In other words, we in emerging markets are already doing much of lifting when it comes to expanding the global economy. But not all emerging markets excel. Some are still deficit. Today, emerging markets account for 55% of world oil consumption. In steel, we account for 75% of world use. Our exports are nearly 40% of world exports. Our fixed investment is still less than 30% of the world total. But this is expected to accelerate over the next 10 years. The conclusion is that emerging markets have emerged to be equal partners to the developed countries. However, emerging market consumer spending is still just 25% of world consumption. Worse, our stock market capitalization is still only 10% of world stock markets. This is implying that we still not utilize the capital market. We still not utilize the world money market that much. We are still lag behind in terms of modern financial instrument. I just came back from Japan, and this is one of the comments that I have with Japanese economy. I said that Japanese are very advanced in technology. They are very advanced in manufacturing and production. But they are not as good as European and US in terms of the innovation in the financial instrument. Actually, I make another comment in politics. I said that in the past decade, Thailand and Japan, I don't know who learned from whom. We have 6 prime ministers in 10 years. But the difference is that in Thailand, 6 prime ministers, 4 come from the same camps, actually, and 2 come from another camps. 4 come from democracies, and another one come from dictator. 1 direct from coup d'etat. Another one come from judicial coup d'etat, and forced coalition in military barrack. So it's clear that the conflict in Thailand is the conflict between those who believe in democracy and those who believe in dictatorship. So you can presume that which part has more supporters. That's the reason why the result of the July 3rd election in Thailand is accordingly. Well, it is clear from this data that we in emerging market and in Asia can and should promote consumption to expand our domestic market and accelerate the development of our financial sector so that our asset prices are properly priced. Our use of resources such as oil and steel should also be scaled down in the future by more efficient use of these scarce resources. G3, the biggest economies in the world, no longer the pillar of global growth. Whereas the developed economies can grow on 2 to 3% in the past and in the coming years, we in emerging Asia, excluding Japan, have been growing at 7 to 9% per year and should be able to grow 7 to 8% in the future. That is 3 times the growth of developed countries. The fastest growing Asian economies are China and India, 9 and 8% respectively. We in ASEAN are growing at 5 to 6%, which is still twice the growth in developed countries. Asia's growth story of the past 20 years was an export-driven growth story, particularly our dependence on developed markets. The script needs to be changed, given that the developed markets are likely to grow only 2% a year. Their public debt problems could cause their growth to be less in the next few years. In the US, economists give a 30 to 50% chance of a recession. Europe still faces many challenges in trying to rescue the smaller Euro members from their public debt problems. Greek one-year bond yield is 98%, which is eroding confidence even in larger countries such as Italy and Spain. I just saw the list of Greece assets that want to sell and some private investment that they invite to join. One difference that I saw is the solar cell. They want to invite the investor to invest in the solar energy power, and they pay the PPA contract at 37 euro cent, which is much higher than Thailand, which is, I think, that is quite high already. In Thailand, the PPA of the solar cell is about 6.5 stang, but that is about 15 euro cent. But Greece is 37 euro cent. So that is something that they know that the credibility of the country is not there. That's why they are paying more. So even in now, the Europeans has showed the signs of eroding confidence, even in larger countries such as Italy and Spain. Even Japan is having trouble reviving its economy from earthquake damage because of public debt is 230% of GDP. In short, the G3 are still important because it's 52% of global GDP, but they cannot be relying upon to be the driver or the pillar of global growth. Asia needs to reinvent its growth model, which relying on exporting to the running large current account surplus with G3. Until now, we are still witness a turbulent global economic environment. Europe is likely to be the weak point of the global economy, and troubles in Europe within the next 12 months could trigger a global economic downturn. Problems of Greece last year have spread quickly, and earlier this week we saw Moody's downgrade to major French banks. The IMF said that European banks may need 200 billion euro in new capital. US is already weak. GDP growth in first half of this year less than 1%. While Japan is trying to revive its economy. In a worst case scenario, the G3 could pull the global economy down in 2012. The problem is that there will not be a quick global recovery from such an economic downturn. In other words, the sovereign debt problems of the G3 could bring about many years of low global growth. In other words, the global economic boom during 2002-2007, when global growth was 5% per year, could be replaced by global growth of 3% per year during 2012 to 2017. This is, we in Asia will have to work harder to maintain our 7% average growth rate. What Asia can do, we in Asia account for about half of the population of the world and also hold more than half of the world's foreign reserves. So we have purchasing power, and our consumers still account for only 25% of world consumption. So we have to concentrate more on domestic economy by stimulate consumption, but we are not consumed like crazy, like what we witness in US. We have to balance, but at least we still have more room to go domestically. If you observe Australia, during financial crisis, Australia very strong. Why they are strong? Because Australia rely more on domestic economy than export economy. And their currency, Australian dollars, increased from 0.6 to US dollar to 1.1 now, which is unbelievable in very short period of time, because their domestic economy is still strong. So we in Asia, we have to change our economic models from rely only on export and foreign direct investment into increase more. I don't ask you to reduce the export, no. but we have to increase, to balance it by increased domestic economy through ability to consume, to make your own citizen to have more ability to consume. That is the reason why Thai Rak Thai parties and Pheu Thai parties have a lot of policies related to increase the ability to spend of the people. So Asia needs to invest in infrastructure and upgrade our technology and production facilities. In general, Asia has plentiful foreign reserves that can be used to acquire what we need. We need to economize on our use of resources. Otherwise, this would bring about cost-push inflation and cause our corporate profit margin to come under pressure because the product price competition remains high. Asia needs to coordinate our fiscal, monetary, and investment policies and direct our efforts to further enlarge the Asia marketplace. Our production should be geared towards supplying higher quality products and services for our peoples, and less emphasis on exporting to developed markets. But our markets must not be closed to outside competition, which is needed to keep us strong. So I saw some countries start to bring the old tradition of protectionism, which is not good for their own country and the economy as a whole. So we have to be open economies than trying to close. Asia may need to set up our Asian economic strategy coordinators, the way the advanced countries did so many decades ago, bringing together, for example, Japan, India, Korea, and ASEAN to draft up and agree on blueprint or long-term economic strategies for the region could be a very useful exercise. There will be many sensitivities and important details to overcome, but the vision is to have something similar to G7 and OECD for Asia. How about ASEAN? What ASEAN can do? ASEAN already has its economic strategy laid out in the form of AEC, which should be proactively implemented in accordance with each country's ability and level of development. We want to see an ASEAN economic community in 2015, and I saw the target of reducing the foreign shareholding, increase the shareholding, foreign shareholding, and the treatment of the ASEAN countries, companies, as become like one country, one community. But that is not enough. ASEAN need to work out the strategies to clear all the obstacles to allow ASEAN economy to be more open. And at the same time, to work out on the strategy how we can cooperate, how we can synergize each other, how can we be a good alliance in production of each product champion that we want to compete in the world. And I think it will be very hard work for ASEAN countries and also the dialogue partners of ASEAN to work closely together to strengthen Asian economy. Some may forget that the largest Muslim population is in ASEAN and countries such as Indonesia, and Malaysia can therefore be a key bridge for ASEAN when it comes to establishing important economic and resources linkages with the Middle East and North Africa. Closer to home, the ASEAN mainland also has unbound opportunities. As you are aware, China is interested in establishing a transportation network linking the south of China to ASEAN mainland to Singapore. Meanwhile, the Japanese are also very keen to establish an east-to-west corridor across ASEAN from Vietnam all the way to Myanmar, which would give Japan and ASEAN quick access to India, a vitally important market. The development of this reverse cross of economic and logistic network should comprise a major component of ASEAN's economic strategy over the next decades. The economic integration would open up vast opportunities ASEAN labor, capital, entrepreneurial skills, ingenuity, and dynamism to thrive and be richly rewarded. So I would like to emphasize that we should concentrate more on domestic economy and capacity building. And another thing that I forget to mention is promoting the SME. Many countries still don't have enough entrepreneurial class people, because entrepreneurs is those who are create jobs. If you don't have enough job creators, you cannot have enough jobs for your citizens. The problem that's happened in the European and US during the financial crisis, they spent a lot of money on financial sector, but left only small proportion of money to help the real sector. So job creation are too slow. Actually, you need to help the financial institution, but actually they are the broker between those who have money and those who want to use money. But those who are really the driving force of economy is the production sector or the real sector. So they need to be helped. They need to have working capital enough to be able to produce more and to create jobs. The ability to consume, like I said, that the whole world is increasing very quickly. But anyway, regardless of you have very excellent economic strategies, economic policy, but if your country are not be trusted because of you don't have the mature rule of law, that will be a pity. Rule of law is building blocks of growth, prosperity, and sustainability. Let me quote some of leaders. President Obama said, democracy, rule of law, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, those are not simply principles of the West, but rather is the universal principle that can embrace and affirm as part of their national identity. Prime Minister David Cameron said, freedom under the rule of law. This simple yet profound expression explains almost everything you need to know about our country, our institutions, our history, and our culture, even our economy. Margaret Thatcher said, the freedom of peoples depends fundamentally on the rule of law. So, rule of law in thick meanings, not just only cover the legal system or the justice system, but it's really to bring about the prosperity or the economy to the country. So to build an ASEAN economic powerhouse, ASEAN must rest first on strong foundations. Rule of law is such a foundation. I would like to quote from the World Justice Project, or WJP, that rule of law are a set of universal principles, that governments should be accountable under the law, that there should be fair and comprehensible laws that protect fundamental rights, that legal process should be fair and efficient, and that people should have access to justice provided by diverse, competent, and independent judges and lawyers. It is not a coincidence that countries which rank high in the WJP Rule of Law Index are developed countries that sustain high living standards for its people. Countries that rank high in the WJP index need not to be big and important countries. New Zealand, for example, is a small country that ranks in the top 5 in terms of rule of law. My country, Thailand, is well ranked generally, but scores below average when it comes to transition of power subject to the law. The bottom line is that rule of law protects the weak and the innocent, and almost important, give justice to all. Justice for all assures long-term peace, stability, and harmony. It can be argued that the ongoing political turmoil in North Africa and the Middle East reflect shortfalls in the rule of law. Certain aspects of rule of law are also particularly important to the proper functioning of free markets and capitalism. The fall of communism in Europe, which ended the Cold War, also demonstrated that capitalism and free enterprise, properly harnessed, is an unmatched system of delivering wealth and prosperity. More important, it is likely to cope well with the challenges of globalization and the ongoing revolution in information technology that is confronting all countries. Free enterprise simply means that you are free to take risk and will be punished for your failures, but rewarded for your successes. This freedom unleashes dynamism of people who constantly seek to do good for themselves and their families. This relentless effort to trying to do things differently and do them better is crucial. In evolutionary theory, it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change. Free enterprise and competition forces us to anticipate and quickly adapt to changes. 4 aspects of rule of law are critical ingredients to capitalism and free enterprise. First is property rights, including the right to keep the profit from your risk-taking and absence of expropriation without adequate compensation. Second is corruption, which creates inefficiency and discourage investment. Third is administrative proceedings with adjudication without unreasonable delay. Fourth is the stability and transparency of laws and regulations. So, if you want to prosper in this modern world, and if you can notice what's happening in developed countries, rule of law is the key. Even in Dubai have set up Dubai Financial Center, which invite investors from worldwide to set up an office there and do business there. Dubai want to be trust and confidence by the foreign investor. They even have the Dubai Financial Center court, special court, in the DIFC. And that court used the British law, which is most of the investor from Western country, they trust the British law, especially on those about economy, capitalism. So this is an example that if we want to be prosper, we have to have a good system in place. And that good system must use the mature international practice rule of law. And I believe that Asia is moving toward that direction. It may be some slow in some countries and maybe some backward in some countries. But the whole world is now more competitive. So you need to be competitive in every aspect, not just only. If you were to be competitive only resources or cheap labor, you will be exploited. They will not be there for long. They will be there until you're poor, until they suck everything out. But if you are prepared to be competitive, to be the countries where you can be trusted, then all the investors worldwide will be with you and you will be prosper. Thank you very much.